If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
Being prepared and trained is the best way to keep your family safe. The best way to be prepared is to learn from those who've spent a lifetime protecting us. Barnes Safety and Consulting LLC offers concealed carry classes with instructors who are law enforcement officers active and retired with more than 100 years of law enforcement experience. Monthly classes are taught year-round with private classes and special group rates available. Classes are $75 and held in the Bailey area. Call or text 1-800-653-0643. Get your concealed carry permit and avoid becoming a victim.
Good morning, folks. I am Lindell. Again, this is Sergeant Tender with the Edgecombe County Sheriff's Office.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Busy man, busiest man in two counties.
Seems to be.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we're going to get right into it today. We'll wait for the preamble in the second segment because Sergeant Tender is so busy. He's got to go and he's got to get out of here. Yes, sir. So y'all reported a suspicious death on June 1st.
Yes, sir.
And then you came back a couple days ago and said that it was a homicide.
Yes, sir.
So we're talking about Mr. Harold Lee Gamble, was 61, and what can you tell us about him?
We got a phone call that he was outside and he was deceased, and when our deputies got on scene, they started looking at the scene and noticed that it wasn't going to be a natural death. He notified the detective division. When we came out, we started investigating it as a suspicious death. The autopsy results, which I will not talk about at this point, came back that it was a homicide.
That was my number one question.
I don't want to.
I understand.
I don't want to give the cause of death at this point.
Gotcha.
But it is a homicide, and we are working that investigation. Me and Detective Johnson have been working it every day since then. It happened on Jabaz Court, which is right off of Antioch Road. It's a little private lane off of Antioch if you're coming down Kingsboro.
Right. Now I didn't. Let me.
No, you're fine.
I always said I didn't mean to interrupt you, but obviously I did mean to interrupt you. I tried to find Jabaz Court on a Google map to show folks where it is, and that's the closest I could get. I mean, why did I have such a hard time finding this place?
Jabaz Court is a private lane that is not marked by Department of Transportation. Most private lanes are not going to be on Google Maps. If you come off of Kingsboro Road, you turn right onto Antioch. Jabaz Court is probably about a mile on the right. Right before you come into a curve, it's on your right-hand side.
Okay, so is it Is there one house there, more than that?
There's
one?
several houses.
Several houses there.
Property owner owns it. He has several different houses and mobile homes on that.
Okay, I got you.
land.
All right, I'm sorry I interrupted you. So,
No, you're
so
fine.
detectives got there.
We got there, started looking at the scene, and you could tell it wasn't going to be a natural death at that point. We processed the scene, went back out there the next day and processed it again with the help of the Rocky Mount Police Department, and we are actively working it. It happened anywhere between 1 p.m. and around 4 p.m. That's the time frame we're looking at. If anybody was on Antioch Road, on Kingsborough Road, and saw anything they may think is suspicious, please call. We need the public's help like we always do. It helps us a lot with the
Right.
information you give.
In the post that y'all put out on social media, you gave Detective Johnson's phone number?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
right?
That's his cell phone number.
That is 252-801-3181.
Yes, sir.
And then, of course, you can call the hotline there. And we do offer monetary reward. People can be anonymous.
Yes.
You just need the information. Right?
Yes, sir.
So what? So 1 to 4 in the afternoon. So I mean, we're there. When you're saying anything unusual, you're looking for somebody driving away fast. I mean, like
People
what
driving
kind
away
of stuff?
fast, people walking in the area that just look suspicious, running from a scene, just situations like that.
right.
Anything like that.
Anything that's out of the ordinary.
Right.
And let y'all decide whether it's important or not.
Exactly. If you're riding down the road, you saw a vehicle parked on the side of the road, that may not be suspicious to you, but to us, that could be the lead that helps us crack this case.
Right. Awesome. I remember several years ago there was a sporting goods store that was robbed like at 3 in the morning. And of course, when I say robbed, I know you know the difference, but for folks, a lot of people you interchange the robbed and larceny, but it's not the same
Right.
thing. I mean, larceny is when you steal something, robbed is when you take something by force. Right, or threat of force. Right?
Yes.
So this place was robbed at like 3 in the morning. Employees were there getting ready for the day or whatever. And the sheriff's office down there, they went out the next day and they stopped every car that was coming through the area because they were looking for like people who were going to work or
Yes.
something who might have been on the road at that time, and somebody actually noticed a vehicle, and they eventually made arrest up in New Jersey for these
wow.
folks who did that and took off to New Jersey. So the reason I'm telling all this is 1, to kill time. 2 is that it is really important that people tell law enforcement things that they know. That,
Right.
like you said, they might have saw a car and been like, well, whatever. But given that day on June 1st, right?
That time.
Yeah, June 1st from 1 to 4. If you're in the Antioch area, the Kingsborough Road area, and especially Jabez Court area,
Yes.
and you saw something, give them a call. Again, that's Detective Johnson at 252-801-3181 or the tip line.
Yes.
So these cases like this, when you go out, because I remember like in the Johnny Cunningham case where you were on the way to the show here,
Yes.
and you called and said, I can't make it to the show, there's been a body, I've got to go. Because most folks who watch this show probably, their interaction with law enforcement is probably coming from TV. And when on TV shows and all, you see where there's like detectives assigned to a case and they check out and go to that case or whatever. But then also I know sometimes that when there's a homicide or a death investigation, everybody gets involved.
Right.
So can you tell me with y'all? Do y'all have different folks assigned to each case, or is it an all hands on board kind of thing? Or
When we have a homicide, it's all hands on deck.
Right.
Because our main goal is to get that homicide solved. We don't want somebody walking the street that has committed a murder. So
I
we
got
put
you.
all hands on deck and go as hard as we can. And with information, even I wanted to explain that with the vehicle and seeing something, sometimes you didn't see something, but sometimes you're talking to one of your buddies or one of your friends and you're like, hey, my buddy said this and my buddy said that.
Very good point, right?
That's that's information too that we can use. People talk about stuff and they don't even think about it when they're talking about it. And if you heard somebody talking about this case, or you heard somebody say, I was the one that went to the house, or I know something about it, give us a call and let us go investigate who you're talking about. Once again, it will remain anonymous. We're not going to tell the person, so-and-so told us to come see you.
Right.
We're just going to go talk to them as we got leads.
And that's how investigations work, right?
Right.
You have to develop the leads, and then physical evidence joins that path at some
Right.
point for a case at trial. All right, folks. So again, we're talking about Mr. Harold Lee Gamble. Was 61 years old. He was killed at his home. Now this is his residence, right?
Yes, sir,
What
it
we're
is.
talking about on Jabez Court, and the detectives are playing it close to the vest as far as what the cause of death is. I will file for his autopsy report, and as soon as I get that, I'll tell y'all whether they want me to or not. That's why I'm so glad last year, there was a law last year that would have put the release of autopsies into the hands of investigators. And I didn't like that very much. I'm sure some of y'all probably like that, but I did not. So anyway, Mr. Gamble killed. I can say that, right? Because y'all said it's a homicide.
It's a homicide.
He was killed at the hands of another, the way
Yes.
it's often said in death certificates. So he was killed at his home on Jabez Court, which is off Antioch Road, which is off of Kingsborough Road,
Yes, sir.
which is
Right near
outside-
QVC.
Near QVC.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. I got you. So, if anybody has any information about this case at all, call the detectives. Again, since it's not on the screen, I'm going to tell you, I've said it 3 or 4 times, but I'm bad with numbers. So, I mean, I can't remember a phone number.
can't
to save my
remember
life.
it either.
I've given out that number 50 times, probably 50 times a
Right.
week, and I still can't remember that number. So it is Detective Johnson at the Edgecombe County Sheriff's Office is 252-801-3181. If you know anything about this case, or if you know anything about anything that happened that day, or if anybody, like you said, if anybody's talking about what happened that day, give y'all a phone call
Yes.
and let y'all sort through the information.
Yes, sir.
And you might get some money out of it. So that's always a good thing. So, Sergeant Tender, it's good to see you again.
Thank you for having
I
me
appreciate
again.
you coming. I'll go ahead and say this. Next month, when you're here, second Thursday. Why would I say Tuesday? Second Thursday of next month, you will be here, and we
Yes,
will be
sir.
talking about the Melanie Wiggins case again.
Yes, sir.
We talked about that on our special episode that we had on the Saturday of the fundraiser
Yes,
back
sir.
in May. But in case folks missed that, we will be talking about Melanie Wiggins, which will probably include some discussion of Mr. Antoine Pittman. So, folks, please tune in for that. And I appreciate you being here, Sergeant.
Thank you for having us.
Any last words before we go?
If you know something, please call us.
Absolutely. Thank you, folks. We will be back in a minute.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
Being prepared and trained is the best way to keep your family safe. The best way to be prepared is to learn from those who've spent a lifetime protecting us. Barnes Safety and Consulting LLC offers concealed carry classes with instructors who are law enforcement officers active and retired with more than 100 years of law enforcement experience. Monthly classes are taught year-round with private classes and special group rates available. Classes are $75 and held in the Bailey area. Call or text 1-800-653-0643. Get your concealed carry permit and avoid becoming a victim.
Folks, that was the what I'm calling the Pierce family. That was Nikki Privet, Shane Pierce, Selby Smith, and Tammy Pierce. Nikki is Shane's fiance, Tammy is Shane's mom, Selby is Shane's boyfriend. They were all together Christmas Eve 2016 when someone or someone's busted into the house and shot all four of them.
We keep talking about a lot of these cases we're talking about happened at Christmas. Like the one in Bailey, Middlesex.
Yeah,
right?
it's a Christmas can be a sad time for folks, and that's one thing that the family tells me is their Christmas has now been hijacked forevermore.
Yeah, every year at Christmas
a tragedy.
you got to remember this.
Right. So we're gonna keep showing them and asking people to call in. We're going to get to a case that we talked about on our very first episode, but I want to go back for a minute because during the break we were talking with Sergeant Tender, and it turns out that you knew Mr. Gamble, right?
I did, Harold Gamble. I did know him. He was a very nice man. His wife used to sing up here on our, that's Harold Gamble right there. Nice man. His wife used to sing up here on one of our religious programs.
So
in
I mean,
the past.
you never know. You just we in our life going through our lives, we never know what's going to happen or how who it's going to affect. So I mean, we both knew Johnny Cunningham. You knew Mr. Gamble. I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
Never know.
Right. All right. So This case right here, we talked about this on the very first episode of the show. We're coming up on our 1-year anniversary in a couple weeks. Right?
We are. We got to celebrate.
Right. So and we actually got more done in the first year than I ever thought we would.
Yeah.
So we do have some stuff to celebrate. A lot of cases in the media, especially like television media and the national press and all that, sometimes they can take the most simplest case and blow it up, right? And what I mean by that is like I worked on a case down at the beach where a guy killed his girlfriend and buried her in the backyard. I mean, it was a very simple case. He killed her, he buried her, they caught him. But for whatever reason, that just piqued everybody's interest, and it was in the national news for like months and months. And it just all, and it was a very simple, cut and dry case, right? But then like this case right here seems to me like it would be a big case, a national story.
Right.
But it's never been reported in the news before. We're the only, other than us, even now, even after a year of talking about this case, we're still the only ones who've ever reported on this case.
That's unreal.
It is crazy, and I have an update when we get toward the end of this, but it's just how can this not be a story that somebody's talking about?
I know.
Right? All right, so who we are talking about is Dylan Stephen West. He's a Fort Bragg soldier, right, from Georgia.
Wow, he's young.
Yeah, he disappeared on March 19th, 2015. He didn't show up for muster in the morning.
Okay.
Now I was in the Navy for 4 years, and musters where, especially after I remember for a holiday weekend, I was stationed in Philadelphia. I would come home, we would party for 3 days straight. I would drive back 8 or 9 hours back to Philadelphia. I'd have a uniform in my truck, and I would put it on the 1 minute walking up to the muster. So, I mean, missing muster once is not really that big a deal in the military. I mean,
Right.
you overslept or you got stuck in
So
traffic or
what is it,
whatever.
a roll call?
Yeah, it's a roll call.
It's a
exactly.
roll call.
So you stand up there in formation, and they just kind of make sure you're there.
Right.
Basically. And depending on what kind of outfit you're in or what you're doing, they might tell you what you got to do that day.
Right.
But the main thing is they, I mean, the only real requirement in the military is that you be there. You get paid no matter what. I mean, the military's great for young kids to go into because you don't have to, they feed you, they clothe you, they put roof over your head. I mean, military does everything for you. All you got to do is be there. You just
Wow.
got to show up, right? So it's a good job.
pretty good.
Oh yeah, I got one kid in. I got another one going in very soon. All right, so he doesn't show up at the March 15th muster, and so it's really not a big deal at first, right?
Right.
But then when they get back to the barracks and all that, he's nowhere to be found, right? And the roommate says that he don't remember when he came in the night before. They don't know.
And where was this?
This was in Fayetteville.
In Fayetteville.
At Fort Bragg.
Fort Bragg.
So they
okay.
don't know where, they don't know where he's at or whatever. Now, typically, this would be this would be a desertion case in most cases. It would be what people used to call AWOL, right?
Right.
Now they call it absent without leave or, whatever term they've come up with today.
I thought they still called it AWOL, but anyway.
Well, yeah, so...
That's the term I know anyway.
Yeah, unauthorized absence is what they
Yeah.
call it. UA is what they call it now. But I mean, but this is not a AWOL case because he was scheduled to be honorably discharged. His time was up. Right? He only had like 4 days left, and he would be out of the Army and back home.
Right.
With a honorable discharge
Right.
and his enlistment over, right? So you don't
Right.
go AWOL 4 days before you get out of the military,
Right.
So the puzzling thing about it, okay, so he's gone. They don't know where he's at or anything. And then on April 1st, now that was, let me make sure my notes here. That was March 19th, right? So on
Right.
April 1st, his car he had a 1997 Lexus, right?
Right. Well, he had a nice car.
Yeah. It is found in Colorado,
Oh my gosh.
right? So that's a long way from Fort Bragg, North
It sure
Carolina,
is.
to Pueblo, Colorado.
Yeah.
right? All right, so it's found on Interstate 25 at mile marker 88. There's no keys in the vehicle. Its battery was dead, right? So just to further the mystery
Well-
of what happened, why, how did the guy that lives a guy from Georgia ends up his car ends up in Colorado. He has no connection to
unreal.
that area that we know of. What's going on with that? So he was 23. You mentioned how young he looked. He was 23. He was a white guy with brown eyes, brown hair. He was 5'10", and so not a single news article about his disappearance at all. I found out about this just going through the missing persons database, the NAMA system, the National Missing Persons and Unidentified Persons system, whatever. The government loves their
Right.
abbreviations. So I called and I talked to the person there at Fort Bragg. This was a few years ago. And they gave me a little bit of detail in the case and provided his picture and all that stuff.
Right.
Well, whenever I've called back since, that person is no longer there, which is not unusual because the military
Oh
folks
yeah.
move around. or
They
whatever.
move around.
But I mean, they got nothing to add to the case now,
Right.
But the thing about it is that he's wanted by the military for desertion because he's gone. He was gone 4 days before the thing.
Right.
And I think that probably the desertion thing would be the best way for the military to help find him because that puts him. You know what I'm saying? That puts him in. So in other words, I don't think the military's as concerned about him being a deserter as they are trying to help find him as a missing person.
Right.
Because
I would hope.
Right. So but this guy's in the wind. I mean, he can't get a job. If he's been picked up for speeding or anything else, I mean, his information is in the system to be detained.
Yeah.
So it's just really mind blowing, what
It
that
is.
situation is. So I started thinking, okay, well maybe he really did deserve. Maybe there's stuff I don't know. Maybe maybe he did. So I posted on Facebook last year. I said, okay, so he's missing to the military, but is he really missing to the family?
Right.
So maybe the family knows where he's at. But keep in mind, I mean, even if he is living with the family, he can't get a job. He can't give his Social Security number out. I mean, and you can't get a job without a Social Security number. So after I posted that, I didn't even realize until recently that someone had commented on some of those posts. And so this is the first one right here. It says, yes, he is missing to the family. My husband and I were very good friends with him. It's nice to see something written about him for once.
Oh, wow.
So infuriating.
So you got a
that-
response.
Right. So infuriating there's been no coverage of him at all. Right?
Wow.
And then that emoji, I don't know what that means. Sad face, I guess.
Yeah.
All right. And then the second one, she also said this. There was never any news coverage, not even an article. Our friend Dylan that went missing 6 years ago. I struggled to ever find anything online about him, and it's infuriating. Years ago, I was able to find one missing persons report. That's the NamUs report that I was talking about. But I haven't been able to find it now for a few years. He lived with Jordan and I for almost 2 years. It was one of our very best friends. And we really wish there was some sort of answer to his disappearance. And then she said, "We miss you, dude."
Wow. Isn't that
I mean,
something?
it is absolutely. I got a reputation sometimes for being hard on law enforcement, right?
Right.
But the news media really dropped the ball on this one, and that's who. All right, General, call back right now. That is. There's no reason that this shouldn't have been in the newspaper.
No.
And
No
down there in
reason at
Fayetteville,
all.
I almost had a job at the Fayetteville Observer. It's a good newspaper. I mean, there's a lot of news going on down there, so things happen. But there's no reason this story hasn't been covered in the news media.
Right.
There's no reason that this story isn't on Fox News and CNN. There's no reason that there's no reason at all. Because of the circumstances, right? I mean, military people go missing every day,
Right.
They get tired. They want to go home to mama. They want to go home to their girlfriend, whatever. They skip town.
Yes.
I mean, it happens. When I was in the Navy, we had a guy. His first name was Noel. He went UA like every 3 days.
What do they do to you if you
Well,
do
I mean,
that?
at first it's like a slap on the wrist at first, and it depends on how long you're gone.
Right.
If you're UA for a day or two, they give you a little bit of restriction where you can't leave the base. But I mean, a lot of bases. Is this the General?
I think so.
He called and there we go. All right, I don't know how to work that thing.
Good morning.
Hey, General.
Hey, good morning, you guys. First of all, UA is a broad term. Unauthorized absence is the broad term because there are subsets underneath that term. First is the absence without leave. That means basically we don't understand where you're at, and then after 31 days, it's declared desertion unless you know something, and so it's just a broad term. It's sort of like casualty until you can identify what's going on.
General, let me ask you something. I got your expertise here. In all your years in the military, and it was how long were you in the Army though? 30 years? I don't know how long.
35 years, 37 officially, but 35 years active service.
Without knowing anything at all about this particular case and not even addressing this particular case, would you say it's highly unusual for someone to go AWOL 4 days before they're honorably discharged?
Absolutely. The information as presented suggests that, no kidding, there's probably foul play. Having said that, I would probably tell you, given that the information is also being shared with different people, probably his mom and some others, at this point in time, there's probably at least some level of CID investigation that's ongoing. to try to figure out what's going on. Probably working with the locals as well as the folks out in Pueblo.
Yes, sir. To me, this is a failure of the news media, because I don't know why this case hasn't been in the news. I mean, I feel like something's happened to Dylan, and I don't know why the newspapers and television stations haven't, locally and nationally, haven't shared this story with folks to try to figure out where he's at.
And this is exactly, you know, the kind of space that you operate in, because they've given something. I think this is where folks like you and others can exercise the freedom that the law enforcement in many cases cannot, because there's a space between known information, unknown information, and then suspicion. Media can play in the suspicion area, but the legal forces cannot. They have to stay exactly what they know, don't know, and then, more importantly, making sure that what they do know doesn't aid anybody else who's trying to clean up their footprints. That's the space that they operate in, to make sure that, one, they don't blow it when they think they're getting close. Now, for us as normal civilians, it's okay for us to be out there recognizing that Dylan's gone. We can't find him. And what I used to do as a commander, especially when I knew me and my NCOs knew the person, and we knew what was going on, our first call, even before he was declared AWOL or declared a deserter, we would actually call, send folks out. I'd actually send folks out to a person's home if we knew the kid was in trouble. And in the early years, when a person was believed to be a homosexual or something like that, before it was between that period of don't ask, don't tell, you could kind of see that that he's getting skittish. We would actually work to make sure the kid realized, hey, look, it has nothing to do with you being a soldier. Don't worry about that. We'll take care of you. And we do things like that to bring back in. Or a kid who was being bullied, we would do those kinds of things to bring him back in. I would probably make the reach right now that there is something afoul in the fact that 4 days prior to an end of service, that a kid would go AWOL. Unless he was in some kind of trouble. But you said honorable discharge.
Oh, yeah.
If he has an honorable discharge coming, I would suggest that there's probably something afoul that's going on. And his best buddies probably know something about where he was going, and if he had a girlfriend, she knows.
That's right.
Or a friend. She knows.
Right.
General, we've run out of time, and we got to go to commercial break. So I appreciate you calling with that. Folks, y'all heard it. The General says 33 years in the military. It's highly unusual for someone to jump the fence 4 days before they're let out with an honorable discharge that would lead to gainful employment. So thank you very much, sir. And we will be right back with Unidentified.
If you recently lost your job and your health coverage due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and you think you may be eligible for Medicare, you probably have more questions than answers right now. Statewide Insurers Group, All Things Medicare, can help you with that. We can provide the guidance and the answers that you need to get the benefits you may be eligible for. Don't let this time of uncertainty jeopardize your eligibility for your Medicare benefits. Remember, relationships matter. Call Statewide Insurers Group today for the answers that you need now. 316-8166.
Being prepared and trained is the best way to keep your family safe. The best way to be prepared is to learn from those who've spent a lifetime protecting us. Barnes Safety and Consulting LLC offers concealed carry classes with instructors who are law enforcement officers active and retired with more than 100 years of law enforcement experience. Monthly classes are taught year-round with private classes and special group rates available. Classes are $75 and held in the Bailey area. Call or text 1-800-653-0643. Get your concealed carry permit and avoid becoming a victim.